And good morning, everybody. My name is Hannah Cullen-Gow. As you can see from my slide, I work at the British Geological Survey. I'm a geoscientist and a spatial data specialist, which means I get to look at lovely rocks, but also get to play around with new technologies, especially with spatial data. I love that kind of stuff. So this talk is going to be focusing on a project I've been involved in the last few years, alongside a larger team of BGS staff. But this is work we've been doing on some sinkholes in the UK. So most of this talk will be focused on an area called Ripon in the UK. So if you have a look at the map, you can see to the left, it shows Ripon, the big red dot. You can see it looks pretty central, but most Brits would say it was in the north. I won't go into that north-south divide we have here in the UK. It is located in Yorkshire, and more precisely North Yorkshire. It sits with the Yorkshire Dales to the west and the North Yorks Moors to the east. All in all, this is a really pleasant place. It's quite a small cathedral city. You know, I would happily live there, but there is quite a big problem. These sinkholes. So it's not clear from my huge annotation. There's a big sinkhole there, and we have human for scale. So there's our esteemed colleague, Dr. Tony Cooper. There's nothing that man doesn't know about a sinkhole. So this photograph was taken in 1997 at a street called Yorebank Terrace, and this was a sinkhole that formed underneath a cave collapse. It damaged 4 garages and an adjacent residential property. Luckily, no one was harmed, maybe apart from their bank account. Oops. So why does this happen in Ripon? What is it about Ripon? Why does it get these sinkholes? So Ripon is located in a remarkably sinkhole-prone area, predominantly because of its karst geology. So some of you might know, some of you might not know on this talk, so I'll go a little bit into that. So the dissolution of soluble rocks produces landforms and features that are all collectively known as karst. And these features include caves, dolines, which are essentially a karstic sinkhole, springs and also stream sinks. Britain has 4 main types of soluble or karstic rocks, and they each have a different character and also varying rates of solubility and dissolution. And you can see from my map there's Ripon is highlighted by the pink star, and you can see that Ripon is located on the gypsum karst of the Permian and Triassic, which is actually quite, it's quite close up there, being quite soluble. So going into a bit more information about the geology, a bit closer, the bedrock geology in Ripon is a Permian age and comprises marls, limestones and gypsum of the Roxby, Brotherton, Edlington and Cadeby formations. And this is capped by some superficial deposits, glacial deposits here, some till, some glacial fluvial deposits, and the alluvium, more recent alluvium down the river valley. So the Permian sequence at Ripon contains approximately about 35 meters of gypsum in the Edlington formation, that is this quite dark orange unit here, and higher up in the sequence, the Roxby formation, we think there could be up to 10 meters of gypsum in there. The most significant aspect of the gypsum in Ripon is that the stratigraphy is quite close to the surface, which in other areas, the gypsum is quite buried, so it doesn't cause as many problems. So the water flow through Ripon is also an influence on this, and it flows from the high ground in the west through underground caves and dissolving more Ripon as it goes to the low ground in the east. So pushing through to the case study that we're actually working on. So on November 2016, November the 10th, a road, Magdalen's Road, the lady in this property here heard a bit of a rumbling in the night and thought, ooh, crikey, what's that? Opened her back door and nearly fell to her impending doom in her garden. And as you can see from this picture here, it's quite a big drop. Her garden essentially just disappeared into a hole. So what happened is that we got a phone call from Harrogate Borough Council and the emergency planning team, and they asked for assistance and asked for BGS to go over there. And the very next day, November the 11th, a team of staff visited the site where they took the drone, took some aerial photography and did a few more measurements, estimating the hole to be about 5 meters deep. So this was not a one-off occurrence, and you can see from this map that the red areas on here are all previous marked dissolution and subsidence areas. You can see the 2016 sinkhole here and previous sinkholes 2014, 2012, moving forward 2018. And this is a sinkhole that I took this photograph and we went on a field visit over to Ripon, and this was a sinkhole that had just opened up and it'd been fenced off by the council. We particularly weren't really aware of it because it's quite small, so they don't really tend to inform us and we have to kind of dig around for this information. But this sinkhole got added to our database as well. So after the 2016 event, BGS applied to the Natural Environment Research Council for an urgency grant to create a 3D geological model. We also applied for a standard grant to perform geophysical surveys to better understand the geometry and the processes involved in the sinkhole. So because it would have been difficult to perform the investigation on Magdalen's Road, and you can see over here, this road here is Magdalen's Road, and this grey area here is the 2016 sinkhole. As you can see, it's kind of affected quite a few terraced properties here. This area's also had previous disturbance, so it would have been a bit skewed, the data, so we moved over to Paddy's Park, just over to the east. You can also see there's already a depression forming here, so it's quite a good place to start. So a team of geologists, hydrogeologists and engineering geologists spent some time investigating various geophysical techniques such as the gravity profile taken along this transect in Paddy's Park. This also included geophysical techniques such as electrical resistivity tomography. I have to say that really slow because I was getting tongue-tied. This image here is what came from that work, and you can see directly under that feature I just commented on, quite a big anomaly there. It's quite useful. We also have this bit of kit here. This is called a Tremino, and this is a passive seismic monitor. This measures seismics generated by background noise. It's quite, it's quite small, quite handy. You can place it on the floor on a couple of pegs, and it will measure, it takes its sounds from natural energy, such as oceans, which can be obviously, kind of far away, earthquakes, to quite nearby noises, such as the passing traffic, unplanned work, and it takes those signals for measurement. And this image here is there, and you can also see again, that's picking up on the same anomaly as well as the gravity profile. So my task, my actual part in this project was creating a 3D geological model of the Ripon area. This was to provide the wider geological context by setting the sinkhole and the geophysical surveys in a 3D context. The main software I used for this was BGS Groundhog Desktop. It's a software tool developed in-house at BGS, used for geological modelling, visualisation, interpretation, 3D site modelling. So there is a community version of this software, free to download. There is a professional version, which is the one I was using, and this is really great at creating 3D visualizations and digital geological models. So there's a little plug for my team. Hopefully they'll appreciate that one. So I'm just going to go through a little bit of the modelling process, hopefully not too boring on this for you all. So we started off by creating a GIS. Like I tend to do most of these things, collating data, boreholes, images, anything I can get my hands on really. After that, we then go to looking at the borehole records, trying to choose the ones that have got the most detail, ones we can understand. Some of these are, hundreds of years old. We then go about doing what we call coding, and this is where we assign codes, so we have a BGS lexicon, and these codes then get entered into the database and they can then be recognised by our geological modelling software. So the data is then all added into Groundhog, where cross-sections, shapes and outcrop points can be constructed, and this then allows us to add this to digital terrain models and build shapes, and it builds a model for you without too much intensive human labour, ideally. So here's a funky little video I've created of the completed model. This is showing coded boreholes with a digital terrain model for the cap. And from this, we can construct cross sections to form a fence diagram showing where we think these units are going. This is a topographical base map draped over the DTM again. This gives you the locational context. You see the model under there can be visualized as a block, but also as individual geological units. Removing the superficial cover, you can get the better idea of the thickness of each of the geological layers as well here. So that is without the glacial deposits on top, just the bedrock. It is hoped that this data will become a useful tool for local community and for us to better understand where sinkholes may occur. So what's next? Our 3D visualization team are already trialing some pretty cool stuff. They're doing some work in Unity, which I have no idea about this kind of stuff, but it's some of you might do a gaming engine, and apparently that's going to be really cool to kind of view this data. Sketchfab, Blender. Blender's a open source software for, again, I think people use it a lot for gaming and illustrations, but we're really looking forward to seeing what comes out of that. It's going to look good, I think. We'd like to develop a way to share the data to the public. We'd really like it to be utilised by developers, local authorities, and also the general public, because they're really concerned and worried about these sinkholes in their area. Ideally, we'd like a visualisation tool to rapidly display this data over the internet, and it can be updated when new data comes available. We are also currently working with a PhD student, Gabriella Williams, on integrating monitoring techniques with ground-based LiDAR. This work will hopefully continue in the new year. We'll have a bit more data then as well. So we've already started to incorporate some value-added data. We've got some geophysics in already. We have some water data, which was collected, it wasn't collected, sorry, this data was processed by an Erasmus student we had called Andrea. He came over from the University of Bologna, and he was working on some water table data and surfaces we could add to the model. So just a couple more slides to finish up here. And as you can see from this map, it's not just us here in the UK that have this problem. You can see there, Madrid, areas in northern Italy, Ukraine, Turkey, Germany, etc. Many, many more. So essentially anywhere gypsum or soluble rocks occur, there is a potential problem. So we're not alone in this, despite Brexit. Oh no, she mentioned Brexit. Okay, and just to finish with this, another favourite picture from Tony. Thank you, Tony, for this picture. It's not all doom and gloom. They make wonderful natural bunkers on the golf course. As you can see, my definitely not mocked up picture, Tiger seems to approve. So thank you, that's the end of my talk. Big thank you to the people on my slide, Vanessa Banks, voice it going now, Tony Cooper, Harrogate Borough Council for allowing us to access the site. This is the Groundhog team. They're great. They deal with all my technical problems and listen to me moan over Zoom meetings constantly. Thank you. Here's a picture of me holding a lovely piece of gypsum, actually in Ripon, when we're allowed to go out into the world and meet people in real life. That was nice, wasn't it? Thank you.